Some things in life are just so common, right? So fundamental we barely even talk about them.
Yeah, like they're just part of the background noise.
Exactly. Like, oh, the sky is blue, water is wet. Obvious stuff. But what if some of those unspoken things actually have some really surprising science behind them?
That's often where the most interesting discoveries lie, actually, in the everyday things we take for granted.
Well, today on the deep dive, we're getting into one of those very topics. We're talking about the effects of masturbation on your brain.
Hmm.
It's something loads of people experience, but it's often kept pretty quiet. And as we'll see, it has some pretty significant impacts, both physiologically and psychologically.
Definitely.
So our deep dive today, it's based on a transcript from a YouTube video. It's called The Effects of Masturbation on Your Brain, and it's from the channel Psych2Go.
Right. Psych2Go does a good job breaking down these kinds of topics.
They do. So our mission here is to kind of unpack what they've presented, the research, the insights. We want to look at the good stuff, the potential positives, but also, the potential downsides too.
Trying to give a balanced view.
Exactly. To help you navigate this really common human thing with maybe a bit more clarity, a better understanding. So let's dive in.
Okay. Well, first off, it's worth just stating how common this actually is. You mentioned that, and the research really backs it up.
Like, really common.
Yeah, I mean, the video cites figures around 90% of men and about 50% of women reporting they engage in masturbation.
Wow, okay. 90 and 50%. That's huge. It really underscores it's not some niche thing.
Not at all. It's a significant part of human behavior, even if it's not dinner table conversation for most people.
Right. And that prevalence sort of leads us to this phenomenon that a lot of people, anecdotally at least, seem to recognize, this post-nut clarity idea.
Ah, yes. That feeling after orgasm where things suddenly seem clearer or different somehow.
Yeah, exactly. What's the science there? Is that a real thing the brain is doing?
It absolutely is. There's a neuroscientist, Justin Dabney, who's looked into this. He explains that orgasm activates a specific part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex.
Okay, the prefrontal cortex. That's the thinking part, right? The rational bit.
Precisely. It's crucial for self-control, concentration, problem-solving, rational thought.
Yeah.
Basically, your brain's executive control center.
So when that lights up after orgasm.
Exactly. It's like your brain shifts gears. It suddenly gets this clearer, maybe more objective perspective. So that feeling of clarity, or sometimes reduced stress, or even, for some people, a sense of regret or shame, it can be linked directly to this prefrontal cortex activation.
Huh. So it's almost like hitting a mental reset button, allowing for clearer judgment.
Sort of, yeah. It shifts you into a more analytical, perhaps less emotionally driven state, for a short time at least.
Interesting. So beyond that sort of cognitive shift, that clarity, what else is going on chemically? You hear about hormones.
Oh, absolutely. That activation is also tied into a release of what people often call happy hormones.
Great, the good stuff.
Yeah, things like endorphins, serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine. Your brain's reward system really kicks in.
Like when you eat chocolate or watch a great movie.
Exactly the same principle, yeah.
Yeah.
It's your brain signaling pleasure, reward, satisfaction. It's a very natural process.
And these hormones, they have tangible benefits beyond just feeling good.
Definitely. They act as natural stress relievers. Oxytocin, for instance, sometimes called the love hormone or bonding hormone. There was a 2015 study mentioned by Kirsten Murch, a researcher and pharmacist.
Okay.
And her work found oxytocin actually reduces stress hormones like cortisol and can lower blood pressure. So that immediate sense of calm people feel. That's partly oxytocin at work.
So real physiological stress reduction.
Yes. And there's more. A 2013 review article even suggested masturbation could help alleviate pain, likely through endorphin release as well.
Wow, so it's a natural stress reliever and pain reliever. That's quite a package.
It is. Biologically, it makes sense as a mechanism for release and, well, self-regulation.
It's pretty amazing how something so common yet private triggers these really profound biological responses, brings it into a different light. But as is often the case, there's usually another side to the coin, isn't there? What happens when this natural mechanism maybe gets overused or used as a crutch?
That's a really important point. And yes, there are potential downsides. One area is when masturbation becomes, let's say, the primary coping mechanism for self-soothing.
Okay, like instead of other ways to deal with stress or tough emotions.
Exactly. Especially if someone's dealing with underlying trauma or significant anxiety. There's a PhD, Alexandra Kitahakis, referenced in the source material.
Right.
She notes that sometimes initial feelings, maybe anxiety or fear or shame, can lead someone to use masturbation to cope. And over time, that can shift into feeling like a like a necessity for managing emotions.
A necessity. That sounds like it could get tricky.
It can. The danger is if it starts to replace other things, like seeking genuine intimacy with a partner, or using other healthy coping strategies, or even getting professional help if needed.
So it masks the problem rather than solving it.
In a way, yes. If it becomes the only outlet for emotional distress, it might actually lead to deeper feelings of sadness or grief down the line, because the root issues aren't being addressed.
That makes sense.
And it brings up a crucial point. If you, the listener, find yourself in a pattern where you feel persistent sadness or grief connected to this, it's really worth considering reaching out for mental health support.
That's a really important caveat. Okay, so coping mechanisms aside, what about, well, the addiction angle? You hear that concern with lots of pleasurable activities.
Right. The old too much of a good thing problem. And yes, that can potentially be a factor here too.
How does that work in the brain? Is it like other addictions?
Well, it involves the brain's adaptability, but maybe not in a good way in this case. Frequent or maybe excessive masturbation can increase levels of a molecule called delta phos-B.
Delta phos-B. Okay, what does that do?
Think of it like an electrical switch in your brain's reward pathways. Or maybe like it's reinforcing a specific neural trail, making it deeper and easier to follow each time. When you engage occasionally, maybe that switch flips off, things reset. But with very frequent engagement, the idea is that switch can stay on.
And if the switch stays on?
Your brain starts to adapt. It might require more stimulation or more frequency to get that same sense of reward or relief. It builds a sort of tolerance.
So your brain basically rewires itself to expect it, to need it more.
That's the concern, yes. It's creating and strengthening these specific neural pathways related to that behavior.
And you mentioned this parallels other addictions.
Exactly. The source material draws parallels between this potential pattern and other behaviors we sometimes see become problematic, like excessive porn use, or gambling, or even substance addiction. The underlying brain mechanism involving reward pathways and adaptation, like with delta phos-B, shares similarities.
Wow. So the key takeaway there is moderation.
Absolutely. Moderation seems key. Understanding that your brain can adapt in ways that might lead to dependency is important self-awareness.
Okay, that's a really clear explanation of the addiction potential. Now, there's one more potential downside mentioned that kind of surprised me. Fatigue.
Ah, yes. It seems a bit counterintuitive after talking about stress relief, doesn't it?
Yeah. You'd think release equals energy, maybe, but people report feeling tired afterwards.
Some do, yes. And it's complex. Sometimes this fatigue might be linked to underlying sexual health issues. Things like vaginismus in women or erectile difficulties in men can sometimes involve fatigue or exhaustion.
Okay, so a physical link, potentially.
Potentially. But it can also be psychological or emotional. We know that chronic emotional exhaustion and fatigue can be symptoms of wider mental health struggles.
Right.
And remember we talked about trauma earlier. Unaddressed trauma can certainly manifest as persistent fatigue too. So it's not always a simple cause and effect.
So distinguish between a short-term, maybe relaxed feeling versus a deeper, more persistent fatigue.
Exactly. A short-term sense of release is one thing. Yeah. But if you're experiencing consistent chronic fatigue or maybe sexual dysfunction alongside it, that's definitely something worth discussing with a doctor or a healthcare professional.
Okay, good advice. So we've covered quite a bit here, the clarity, the happy hormones, the stress relief, but also the potential for problematic coping, addiction pathways, and even fatigue. If we try to tie this all together, what's the main message for someone trying to understand their own experience with this?
I think the main message is that it's nuanced. Like so many fundamental human behaviors, it has this dual nature.
Right, good and bad potential.
Exactly. On one hand, it can genuinely boost well-being. The hormone release, the stress reduction, the pain relief, those are real positive effects. It's a natural pathway to pleasure. But on the other hand, context and frequency matter hugely.
Yeah.
If it becomes the only way to cope, if it feels compulsive, if it leads to negative emotional states like sadness or grief, or if it becomes excessive to the point of impacting daily life or causing issues like fatigue, then it shifts from potentially beneficial to potentially problematic.
It really highlights how finely tuned our brains and bodies are.
It does. It shows how even natural behaviors need awareness and, well, moderation to stay healthy.
So ultimately, just understanding these different impacts, the physiological ones, the psychological ones, that gives you the power to make more informed choices for yourself.
Precisely. It's about knowledge, not judgment. understanding how your own brain and body might be responding.
Absolutely. Okay, so to leave our listeners with something to think about, considering everything we've discussed today, what really stands out to you about how adaptable our brains are? How they get shaped by our habits, the good ones, and maybe the ones that become problematic? And maybe how can that understanding help guide your choices moving forward?